Well, I think there are currently, especially in the last 10 years, the awareness regarding the issues and of environment here in the GCC, I think, and in the Middle East in general, have changed a lot. And you find lots of activities, many new organizations. I'm not comparing it to the state but I think the governments are very serious and regarding these issues here. At the end, the price, the economics of energy is the major player. And the fluctuation of the price of oil now, I think, is giving now the advantage for other sources of energy, being having a stable cost of production. And I think the higher prices now of energy will give not only the people in the Middle East, the other part of the world, the chance to think and explore different sources.
But I have also been impressed in my discussions with the leaders of, for example, Qatar and Abu Dhabi in the last few months, how visionary they are about the need to use part of their oil or gas wealth to encourage clean energy investment in solar and wind and hydro and geothermal all over the world. And I have to admit that I find more visionary will from the leadership of Abu Dhabi and Qatar in this area with respect to global investment and active involvement than I find from some of my European colleagues. When the Chinese leadership say to us, for us in China, 50 years is not a long time, for Abu Dhabi, that the oil will run out in the next 60 or 70 years. And Qatar might have used most of the gas resources in the next 100 to 150 years. A visionary leader of a country which wants to create a good living for his or her grandchildren or great-grandchildren thinks about these issues. So maybe Qatar and Abu Dhabi and other places in the region are now in the process of taking a global leadership on this issue to a greater extent than the rest of us has acknowledged.
What incentives can the United Nations offer to China to encourage them to move toward the clean fossil fuel?
I believe that there are very strong incentives already within China. I was told, I hope it is correct, that last year there were 60,000 demonstrations in China because of pollution. That is an enormous figure in a society which is primarily regimented by the leadership. Similarly, we have successfully, from Iceland, created agreements with the leadership of China to transform the power heating in Chinese cities from coal over to geothermal. We have already finished one of the projects. And in my visit to China last year, I realized that there's now a systematic effort by different governors and regions and so on to transform their energy base over to more responsible clean energy, primarily perhaps for health and lifestyle reasons, because the citizens are sending the message very strongly that they don't want the polluted air, they don't want the lung diseases, they don't want the asthma, they don't want the suffering of their children. And we have seen now in the earthquakes and last winter in the cold areas and so on that the leadership of China is responding in a more constructive way today to activity and pressure and opinions from the people of China than perhaps they did before.
My question to the panel and maybe to the audience as well here, how can we create a sense of urgency to move fast for people to make an informed decisions at different levels? We have pioneers who have got the passion for it. How can we create the champions? How can we involve the media to reach individuals? How can we involve schools to educate people? And it's a ton of education to change an ounce of perception. What should we do?
I believe it must be a combination of laws and regulations, profit-driven motivation from the business sector and the companies, and of course a kind of a moral responsibility from all of us. And let us acknowledge, although we are sometimes cynical, that human beings are essentially moral. I mean, we are motivated in a good way.